What's up, everybody? Brother Los here.
Brother Jam.
Brother Ron.
And we're the Daily, Brother Black Hand, and we're the Daily Smoke. I always forget he's back there because he's way back there behind the camera. So, but anyways, thank y'all for joining us today. It's Monday. How's everybody feeling today?
Feeling good, man.
Yes, sir. It's hot. It's hot. I just had to say it in case anybody was unaware. It's hot.
Yesterday it was it said 98, feels like 108. I'm like, what do you mean it feels like? No, it's 108 then, goddamn. It feels like 108. It must be 108 then. You know what I'm saying?
If we all agree that it feels like 108, it's fucking 108.
You know? Yeah, but officially the thermometer is lying. If you're telling me it feels like 108, that thermometer is telling the truth. That's the one we're listening to.
The thing that I hate the most about this kind of heat is that when you so you think to yourself, sun goes down, it's gonna cool off. But then you got a couple of hours after sunset to where the cement is still giving off that radiant heat. And it'll be 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and we still sitting at like 92 degrees. I'm like, this just makes no sense.
Yeah. That's that network of highways we got rated.
Right.
It's rated. Because, there's concrete everywhere in this motherfucker.
It should be glowing white hot.
I've had people come here and be on that road like, man, is it all right to drive up here? I'm like, yeah, Because they're not used to on them highways here that they're real high up. They're not used to that shit up north. There's see highways like that and shit. That go way up high like that. You're looking down like, God damn, this ain't no break. They don't have that shit.
A friend of mine from New York was surprised by U-turn lanes. Apparently, they don't have U-turn lanes up there.
No, it's too many people.
But we have
really.
We have like a dedicated lane for making U-turns under the freeway, and she was like,
"Yeah,
wow, y'all y'all have that?"
Yeah. In Michigan and Detroit, they have the turn one, like at the intersection.
What's up, brother Kevin?
You don't stop at the intersection and make the turn. You go to the next little roundabout and then come in.
Really?
Yeah, I forget what they call it. I think they call it the U-turn because, like, at intersection, you know how we always have a lane here to go that way. 3 cars make it. The rest of us got to wait. There, you don't turn there. You go to the next. There's a lane up past the intersection that makes it U-y and brings you back, and then you can go to where the fuck you wanted to go this way.
That's
but
crazy.
You can't do it there. Yeah, it's like certain intersections. Certain intersections, yeah, it's like anywhere. Right on red, wait for the light for the red to go, or for the green to go to the left. But they don't have that. That's up there. I never seen that either till I got up there. But I'm ready to turn at the light. Keep going. I'm like, we're turning right here. And you got to keep going here. I'm like, oh, okay. Everybody does it different. It's like,
you miss being up north with all this heat down here, man.
Man, right now, hell yeah. Some of that cold snow and shit. That's like one of my clients. I haven't talked to him all. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing, man? Hope everything's treating you good. Weather up here, he's in Chicago. Weather up here, it's been kind of rainy and shit. 74 is like, look, I told him, but you want to trade? I'll take 74 and rainy. You want 98, feels like 108? I'll trade with you any day, bro.
Right.
If you want sunny, let's trade. I'll go to rainy Chicago in 74, than to be here in Houston melt. Than to be in the sun.
This heat got a brother want to move to Seattle. Where it's just cloudy and rainy all the time. I'm tired of heat now.
Are you?
I'd rather be cold than hot.
Yes.
Because cold, I can keep piling shit on and make me warm. Hot, I can go in the water. That water's going to get warm sooner or later, See, where's she at? 110.
Indiana.
Oh, up there too. Yeah, but still, that's you get 2 weeks of that. We get 3 months of that.
4 months, because September we still in it.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Now you know what my theory is. I got a theory. What is it?
Thinking.
The Los theory of thinking. You know how we had the freeze last year, right?
Right.
So, and it's been already it's not even summer yet. We're burning up.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe come October, November, we'll start to cool off. Because normally we don't.
Right.
Normally it's still hot. I mean, I remember when I first moved here, Christmas is 80 degrees. I'm like, other than Puerto Rico, I had never been nowhere it was 80 degrees on Christmas. Ain't no damn snow or nothing.
That's true.
So that was kind of okay. So it's been hot up there. Yeah.
I think you said they in Indiana they supposed to have Category 1 winds. I'm like, do you understand? We would love to have a tornado right now. It's so damn hot.
Just to blow the wind.
Just blow it. You know what I mean?
Stay on the beltway. Go all the way around Houston.
Stay on Beltway.
So
the whole city off.
And let's do a couple of little ones on 610.
Make a few laps around the city.
You know, let's make the tornado cooling lane. You can't drive in that
Niggas be-
cooling system for you.
Dudes to be outside on their porch and oh, that's a nice breeze. That's a nice breeze.
You know, that's the cooling system.
What's up, Vanessa? You're gonna have to name your show Cool Gigalia. It's hot.
You know, like, shit.
Oh,
They name
Give
that.
me some of them trucks. They be delivering that seafood in.
I'm trying to tell you, boy. It's hot.
That's fine.
So, Ron, you said you got to watch some of the January 6th hearing.
Yeah.
What was that? Was there anything interesting that came out of that today? Because I didn't get a chance to look at anything about it yet.
What I took from it, and this was just my own personal opinion, just to be fair looking at it, it was supposed to be a hearing about, January 6th events. And the only thing I didn't appreciate about it was they kept using terminology to state that Trump was in so many ways guilty of this happening. And I think regardless of the extenuating circumstances or the evidence that may be there, I think you should change your language prior to going to court.
Okay.
And if you take that approach, because at these hearings you're supposed to present a body of information to make a suggestion or make a motion. It's different if you, not to say that information isn't viable or isn't reliable or even true, but you still have to give individuals their day in court.
True.
And that was my only concern, because they kept saying, Mr. Trump did this, Mr. Trump was guilty of that. And they were saying that.
To bring him in.
Well, yeah, it started looking more like a witch hunt. And I expected more out of our democracy than what I saw today.
Oh, you did? Oh,
yeah. I expected more out of our democracy.
Oh, okay. Well, people call me naive, but yeah, I don't. Because there's really no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans right now. You've heard me say that before. I mean, they're all getting paid by the same sides.
Right.
What you have right now is rich people running cover for other rich people as much as they can.
Right.
Somebody's head's got to roll.
Right.
We might see a few convictions, but it's going to be low-level people. It's not. It's going to be the clerks, the dudes who was working in the office and shit. You're right.
And they're going to be taken care of when they get out.
Those people are going to be the ones that we see heads roll. You might see a few big names go down, like they arrested, what's his name? Navarro.
Okay.
They arrested Navarro because he defied their subpoena or whatever. And he's playing the victim because of that. But what they're really doing is they're going to give you a couple sacrificial lambs. But the Trump and the people who actually did all the planning and did, whatever they did behind the scenes, they're not going to pay for that, at least not appropriately based on what their involvement was.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's one thing to be the foot soldier. It's another thing to be the general.
Sure.
You're way more responsible than just the foot soldier, but they're not going to be appropriately charged.
Well, again, I agree with everything you said. Literally every single thing. Because this was a hearing, I'm not a fan of anyone being charged in a public forum.
Right.
I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't care how guilty they were, how innocent they are. That's just not the proper forum to find a person guilty and you're trying to build up your case against them there. The information that they was presenting, it was so blatantly slanted. That was the issue. Maybe that's what I should have said. It was so blatantly slanted that I really almost felt sorry for anyone on the opposite end that may have had a different opinion, because you really gave no room to convince them. It became more of a public lynching, if you will, rather than, hey, here's the evidence. And I don't think I would want that type of day in court. I wouldn't personally.
Now, playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. So, and I get what you're saying. In most circumstances, I would imagine I would probably agree with what you're saying. But in Trump's case, because of his public profile, because of how he uses media and how he uses alternative facts and disinformation, misinformation, and all of that, you know, that's his forte. Could that be being done that way in order to be dramatic, in order to be accusatory? Because to get in, and whether you agree that it might work or not, their thinking behind it could be is that being that this is what they did, you know, kind of about it. That's how they think they might get through to that side where they can say, look, no, he really did something bad here, y'all. We're trying to show y'all. So whether or not you think that they might be successful at it, I'm just saying that could be a possibility of why they could be approaching it that way. Because Trump really is he's a media monster. I mean, really, he is. You got to give the man credit for nothing. If you can't say anything else about Trump, the one thing you can say is this man knows how to manipulate the media. Right. He's done it he's done it to achieve celebrity, and he's done it to maintain his celebrity. It got him to the fucking White House because he knew how to play the media. Whatever you might say about his intelligence, whatever, maybe he's just wily like a fox. It could be natural instinct. Whatever. The man's got a talent for being able to get the media behind him. So the approach or the thought process might be that we have to approach him dramatically. We have to come after him dramatically because he's gonna basically say everything we're saying is a lie.
Absolutely. It's for that reason why I don't believe in politicizing justice. If what you're saying is basically this is politics all over again. I thought this was justice.
Right. It's always politics.
So I mean, if they want to take the same route or play the same game that you played, then that's fine. But just make sure we recognize that that's politics. That's not justice. We're having a hearing to make sure justice is being done by our country, by the insurrectionists of January 6th. If you politicize that, then they're going to close their ears like we're closing ours to their point of view.
Right. That's what it is.
If you politicize justice.
All I know, if I'm ever brought up on federal charges, I want a Senate hearing. I want them to start it off, so it take me about 10 years to fight in court.
It happens. It happens. It happens.
So I have 10 years to figure out how the fuck to disappear, become Charles Ben from the Navajo tribe, run with the wind. Run with the wind.
Did he ever tell you the story of Charles? Well, no, never mind. Never mind.
Okay, we'll talk about that after the show.
Charles
now
Ben. It's like if I ever had to escape, that's the story I'm gonna tell. If I ever had to disappear, I was gonna go to some Wilmington, North Dakota, and to the Navajo tribe, and my name was gonna be Runs with the Wind.
The what?
The Navajo.
Yes, man. Yes.
Jello.
The Navajo tribe, and my Indian name is Run with the Wind.
Yes, man.
All right.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
Or where he at? Where he at? Come here, man.
Oh, dude. But man.
Oh yeah, but my American name would be Charles Ben.
Charles Ben.
Charles Ben.
A Puerto Rican named Charles Ben.
I'm dating.
Posing as a name.
He gonna grow out some braids from the hair around the edges. You know what I'm saying?
No, before I go, I'm gonna go to some girl and have her put braids all in my hair. Just take all this and twist in whatever you can.
So we did.
By the time I get there, it'll be all grown out, so I have that long flowing shit. Run with the wind, you know, that's me.
All right.
Shit, the Nutella hoes.
Love's gonna be living off your meat and sausage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I'm gonna be out there and alcohol. Because they be drinking.
When is Ronnie Liquor Store opening up?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Y'all stay tuned. You gotta watch TGIF because we've been showcasing a lot of these different restaurants.
local restaurants, yeah. Black owned, by the way.
Black owned, by the way. The last one we had was what's that? Mama Hoods, just greens. All you get is big ass bowl of greens. Y'all heard me talk about God, my chicken from Justin's.
Right.
That's MLK and Cullen. Just greens is on in the alleyway of MLK and Travis Scott. And then we got a new one coming up. We found out it's called Ronnie's Liquor. You'll see. Check it out. TGIF. You'll see what Ronnie's Liquor's about. I'm not sure when we're gonna be showcasing it, but you'll see. It's right there on the corner. Everything's on MLK and Cullen. And then we work with that, So it might be on Macau or some shit like that.
It's all in the same little strip center.
Huh?
It's all in the same little strip
It's
center.
all in the same look. Right. Across the street from the church with the name that goes all around. Yeah, they'll see. They'll see what it is. They're gonna see it.
Man.
Yeah. But before you start, we forgot to mention. Don't forget, if you want to check out, you want to be on the show with us, you want to know what's coming up. Check out our website www.thadailysmoke.com. Be a guest, whatever you want. Just everything in there that's about us, even our new employees and shit. What you say, we're rounding up right. Work for us. So and then if you want to donate,
don't laugh, Kevin.
If you want to donate, go to Cash App. It's $TD Smoke. Anything you donate is what's that?
We need one in Dallas.
What? Y'all need a Ronnie's Liquor in Dallas? The number is 1-800. Where you at? Ronnie's Liquor comes to you. We're in that time. Ain't no Uber. No, wait, no. You got to live within a 3-mile bike radius.
That's what it is.
You ride a little bike with a little cart in the back. Ronnie's Liquor. So, anyways, yeah. So if you can't donate any money, just viewing us is good enough. Liking, sharing, and subscribing with others to bring on, help us build this people's podcast because it's all about you.
Amen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So, thank y'all for joining us. And I think tonight we're going to be talking about art and the role that it plays in education. So, I found the subject interesting because being somebody who's always considered myself rather on the creative side, of things, to me, I couldn't imagine my education taking place without the arts that I got involved in, from taking, art in, I want to say elementary school, just was like learning how to sculpt clay and stuff like that. And then in middle school, I took classes that taught me how to draw and paint. And then in high school, I wound up being in like woodworking and stuff like that. And so I've always seeked out. No, I've always sought.
Land, right?
Huh?
You was in wood laying class, right?
No. I took pipe laying.
Pipe fitting, right? Okay, got you. Metallurgy.
Yeah, I wasn't in wood laying. I was in pipe work.
I can let him go. Okay, I'm sorry, John.
That's why I got my doctorate in womanology. That's what I tell him. You can't get nothing by me. I got a doctorate in womanology. I know all your shit.
I'm sorry, John. It's my fault. I apologize. I do apologize.
You got him started.
It's my fault.
That's how you made your leg back in school?
You know
I'm
what?
fucking with you, man.
No, dude. Actually, though, I tried one time.
You tried it with that
I
little thing.
was gonna try it to see if I could do it, but I didn't get the time to actually put into it like it would have taken, and I couldn't figure out how to do the fitting on my own, because like the way they do it at the hospital is one way, but
Right.
I could have made now that I think about it, I could have just made like a mock-up, like a model,
And they told them
not to actually wear, but just one to do, just one to be cool. Yeah.
in case of emergency. Duct tape fixes everything.
That's what I use to stir the beans.
That's another restaurant we'll be having coming soon too. Jam Beans. All the seats in the restaurant are toilets. Just order your shit, go sit down and eat. Big ass bowl of weed.
Man, God damn it.
To weed or not to weed? Back to the arts.
What's the question?
I don't even know.
Yes, it was.
I can't take this food nowhere.
Yo, bro.
I can't take this boy nowhere.
wood class, something like that.
Something about wood.
I'm trying to see. I didn't know. I was trying to look for rolling class. I got a class where I can learn how to roll things. I had to learn on my own and shit.
That's real world practical skills
Right?
right there. That's an art, man. That is an art. You know, rolling.
Rolling used to teach class at the
rolling
community
a-
center right there on MLK
Shit.
and Fuqua and shit.
I took my class.
Yeah, you took his class, right?
I failed though. I failed miserably. But that in and of itself is a skill, and that's like over and over again in different things that I watched a couple of TED Talks that talked about the subject, read a few things online, looking at it, and it's interesting because you kept seeing over and over again how these artistic skills translate into critical thinking, translate into inventive thinking, translate into all of these different skills that not only. One of the things that I watched talked about in this TED Talk, it was talking about how that they've done studies that show that kids who take art classes, like basically what winds up happening is they'll be less valuable, like if they have an arts degree, they'll be less valuable initially right out of college, but later on in life, they wind up getting like management positions because they're the problem solvers. They're the people who actually fix things, you know, if they can get in on the ground floor, they're the ones that move up because they have that different way of thinking. They have that ability to be flexible in their thinking, whereas somebody who only went, say, for like just a pure STEM, say, you know, curriculum, where they're going through school just studying math, science, and all of this, and that's great. Initially, you look great on paper when you first come out of school, but those skills are less valuable as you try to move on in your career. The arts actually prove to be more valuable skills, and that's what employers actually look for when you get into the older market.
So that would make sense, though, that if you're in your 30s or 40s, go to school for some type of art shit and then get a job. Like, that's an easy way to get a job, right? But to what you were saying, I had looked up some things. It says 4 reasons why art is important in our society. And number 1 is it's a natural behavior. Media for communication. It talks about culture and society, and it attracts tourism. That's what somebody had mentioned on that. The other thing I wanted to say is there's the 7 forms of it. You know what the number 1 form of art is? The fine art.
Okay.
You know what it is? I tell you what it is? Architecture is the number 1 form of fine art.
That's deep.
Because of the way the buildings are built to surround the surrounding, to make it look good to the people. To, you know, because that's when you build a building, you know, I put my shit down. I want to do it good. So that was the very first form of art. With the Greeks, all their buildings and shit, some of them are still there. You know, their cities are beautiful back then, you know. But that's the first form, and then there's 7 of them. Then there's sculpture, painting, music, literature, dance, and theater. And the one that was added in cinema was added by this Ricardo Cuando. He was a theorist and film critic who in his 1911 manifesto of the 7 arts coined the term 7th art to include film amongst his fine arts. So he I guess he wanted, because of what he does, he said this should be included, but that would be the 8th. But yeah, so that's it also talked about how it's just who we are. This is how we communicate. I could tell you a whole story by drawing you a picture. Look, man, this is what I'm trying to tell you. If I don't understand what the fuck you're saying, I just draw you a picture and you'll know. You know, that's what they did back in them caves. You know, they understood that shit.
Speaking of caves, there's actually been cases where we've used paleontologists, people who study like ancient life, have actually been able to use cave paintings that, you know, our ancestors drew to actually be able to discern information about the animals that lived back then, like even their behaviors, their habits, and stuff like that. Of course, nothing with a 100% conclusion, but it gives us some good indications. Because, of course, these people were hunting those animals, so they paid attention to their behavior. They paid attention to the patterns that they moved in. And so we can actually, there's been cases where we can actually draw a sense of animal migrations, because not only did they draw the animals, but they drew the landscape, so we could tell, oh, the grass was high then, so this was during the rainy season, blah, 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 you know, and draw these extrapolations from what they've actually painted. And it gives us...
John. Right.
No, you. I'm sorry, talking to you.
To me?
Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going by what he said. Like, wait till you're older, go get some art degree, and if they're hiring old motherfuckers with art degrees, and don't get a job.
Right. John said right. I'm sorry.
But yeah, man.
He had mentioned that it's more
That's
formidable
right.
later in
That's
life.
right. Yes, I'm sorry.
But it's just interesting seeing the things that even over the course of hundreds of thousands of years, that even the art that humanity creates can still teach us things. We can still draw knowledge and wisdom from those things. It's just, you can't really deny that part of humanity, because if you do, you really only ended up with half a human. The creative side of humanity is what makes us, in a very real way, it's what makes us different from all the other animals and everything like that. Not only can we see beauty, they say even elephants will do ceremonies to the moon at certain times.
Are you serious?
Yeah, elephants, like, they kind of worship the moon.
Are you serious?
That's the best. That's the best analogy they can kind of give
so
it.
Cool.
But they have certain rituals that they'll go through at different phases of the moon. But we're the only ones who can not only observe the natural order of the universe, but we can imagine other things outside of it that don't exist.
One thing I had found was that art it sparks emotion.
Yes.
Because you can see something that pisses you off, and you can also see something that makes you feel nice and happy, or something that makes you that just you don't care about.
Brings a tear to your eye.
Right. And that's in all forms of art.
Right.
Especially in the Kuchi Gadalia art.
Right.
Right.
That's real. Right.
So yeah, but
yeah, man, it's. I mean, talking specifically about education, it's so many different aspects of it can affect how students are able to learn math. One paper was talking about how, like, they would look at students who were having trouble with math. Well, the teacher would, instead of trying to teach them, okay, say if you geometry or something like that. So instead of being able to just show them on a chalkboard numbers and everything and breaking down the theorems, pull out physical representations of the shapes you're talking about. Get them to start thinking about those shapes as physical objects and explaining them to them that way. One teacher used a method that involved fractions and mazes, and I was like, what? And it was like, but you're making children have to think on a creative level, and it makes them so much more intelligent, and it starts building that mental flexibility that you need to be able to actually be a critical thinker. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to be able to take in new information and see things from different perspectives. And if you don't learn that young, you're missing something.
Right.
And it's not fair to try to discount that in, like, how we've seen recently in a lot of school budgets and curriculum across the country, that they're cutting funding for arts in schools.
Right.
And that's just, it's counterproductive. It really is. We do so much that's counterproductive in this society, but it's like, okay, that's the kids. We're trying to actually give them a future. We need to start training our children differently than what we've done.
no economics. That's all I need them to know. Money.
No, we don't need them to just know economics, man. We need them to know as much as they can know. Because right now, it's going to be the people who can do a little bit of everything that are going to be the ones who are able to adapt and survive with what's coming down the pipe. It's really one of those things where we don't have too much of a choice. Well, it's just like so many other things. It is what needs to be done, but we're in denial.
Holistic approach.
There's a whole, no matter what the subject is, there's a section of our population who's always in denial about what needs to be done.
Agreed.
So
I remember that was one of my favorite quotes ever. I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something like, I believe a man can build a house, build a spaceship, learn mathematics, love, chart the solar system, specializations for insects. You get the point.
right,
So we are. I think the human being as a species by nature is a Renaissance species, not a Renaissance man,
Right.
but rather a Renaissance species. And I think art is very important if for no other reason than when you look at the human evolution of our species. At one point in time, we was crawling on all fours, and then we stood upright. That was game changer. And then we developed, things like language. And we also, like on one of our previous episodes, discussed the importance of fire, how that changed the game. But what a lot of people don't realize, those were directions that our evolution was going. But the real leap that man made, when we started painting on the cave walls, or we started creating art in the African savannas, make no mistake about it, that was nothing short of actually us getting in a rocket and going into outer space.
Right.
That was the beginning of it.
Like psychologically, because you have to think about it. We were nomadic agrarians, if you will, and at that time, the earth was a very hostile environment. There was no, corner store. There was no electricity. There was, you didn't have an air conditioner. You probably did. Most of them didn't have shoes. Clothing was limited. You were subject to the elements.
Right,
and here,
didn't have fire.
Didn't have fire.
Dark at night, dark.
And out the clear blue one day, there we are. And what that was an example of man's psychological capacity expanding beyond his and her immediate experience. It was a representation of their experience, but as a collective. We're hunters. So notice how the first pictures are like there's an oxen and I have a spear.
Right.
It's not the selfie, me with the spear.
Right.
And from what I understand in the art world, that's where the problem is. The art world believes that art, like God, is dying or is dead. And the reason they say that is because art has started to become too self-referential. And so what they meant by that was, there was a time in human history where art was simply an expression of the spirit. It was just a simple expression of the human condition. It was an expression where all you had to do was be human and you could relate to it. You didn't need a special type of knowledge or language or experience to necessarily get it, because it spoke to all of us at our core.
We all knew what a spear and an animal would do.
That's what we were.
We knew what
That's
that
what
was.
we were doing.
Yeah, he's hunting. Yeah.
But the problem started becoming when art started turning pornographic. And when I say pornographic, if you look at the original term of pornography, it was not naked bodies. Pornography was political expression through art. So when you started expressing political agendas through art, a specific people during a specific time in a specific space could relate, but now you're building barriers in terms of art, because unless you're subject to those conditions, you don't understand the piece of art. Let me give you an example. Guernica by Picasso was talking about the war in Spain. Now, if you were from Spain, and Guernica to this day is one of the perennial pieces of art, but you have to learn the significance of Guernica. That's what makes Guernica Guernica, because you're like, wow, he's able to translate what was going on at that time during the war into this piece of art, which looks like a piece of crap to me, to be honest with you. It's like a bunch of triangles and rectangles and half a donkey's head and all this other kind of crazy stuff. Like, it's called Guernica. Go look at it.
Okay.
And that's not to say that, that it doesn't have its own value or merit. I'm just saying, because I'm separated in time and space, I can't relate. Let's go to the Mona Lisa. Everyone that looks at the Mona Lisa gets it. You may not find it beautiful, but you understand it as a piece of art. You don't have to learn, oh, well, Leonardo Da Vinci painted this picture for what reason? He just painted the picture of a pretty woman that he found pretty.
They think that's him upside down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
That's
when
fear.
he created it,
Look, we just painted
What's
a picture of a girl. It might have been a girl sitting right there. He was looking
some
at.
people
Like,
think it's a dude. Exactly. To your point, they think it's a dude.
Right,
some people
right.
think it was a mother-in-law.
Right.
Some people think it was some chick just walking down the street.
right.
But the point is not so much who it is. And the point is not so much, the point is what it represents. And what it represents is beauty.
Right. See it all about.
The Parthenon represents beauty. Impressionism by Degas and those guys, that represents beauty. You don't have to know about Vincent van Gogh to appreciate Starry Night. That's the importance of art. That's the point that I think I'm making that both of you have stated. Because let's look, he says architecture, right? Architecture and impressionism is really the same thing, and here's how. When you have a straight shot at downtown Houston or whatever your respective city is, when you look at downtown, there's a format to it, isn't it?
It's supposed to be. Yeah.
Like nothing's really out of place. It may not be as pretty as other cities, but there's a pattern to it, if you will.
Right.
So whenever a person, an architect, comes up with an idea to build a building or design a building to be built, that building has to, in some form or fashion, fit in with the land around them, right, the other buildings around them, and how it blends in with the horizon, et cetera, right?
Right.
So that means you had to see that entire city from afar and up close to put your building there. And you had to have the agreement of other city planners to say, we think this would be a good idea, right? Impressionism is the same exact way. When you make an impressionist piece of art, you paint on the wall. And when you're standing up on the picture, it looks like a big piece of nothing but splash paint, kind of like a Jackson Pollock piece of art. Like there's no, what is this? But if you notice, the further back you walk away from the painting, the more the painting starts making sense. So that means, just like the architect, the impressionist had to draw that painting from across the street, even though he was up on the wall. That is all important to your cognitive development. That is a major reason why art is so vital to the human species.
Okay, so I would push back on one thing you said. Because the thing about it is over time, humanity as a species and the art that humanity creates is going to evolve. There's going to be a natural change. So I don't think that art in and of itself is dying. It's just going through a phase that we're not familiar with right now. You know, and again, you have to keep in the context that humanity hasn't been on the earth for that long. We humans haven't been humaning for as long as we think we've been doing it. You know, we're still basically a new species as far as life on this planet goes. We haven't been around that long. So when you look at where art and even its reflection in our society, and like you said, how some things can be so self-referential that you might not be able to understand it without having to learn the history and context of it, but that in and of itself is also part of the value of art, because you have to go back and learn that history and context to really be able to appreciate it. You might like the colors, you might like the brush strokes, you think it looks nice, you know, but when you learn the history and the story behind that painting, that adds even more value and depth to the art itself. So even that art becomes almost a way of relaying history. So it exists outside of even the art itself, it becomes a part of history, because when you learn about that particular piece of art, you're gonna get the history that goes along with it. And so human art over time, things that people don't consider, say, art right now, people go, oh, that's just pop, or whatever that might be. In 100 years, they're gonna look back, just like how we look at stuff from the 1920s. Their Tiffany lamps were throwaway lamps. But nowadays they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars if you can find original ones. You know what I'm saying? But back then they were just like cheap decorations that people got for their house.
So now, how do we do that when we talk about music? Are there new instruments coming out?
Maybe not new instruments,
Because
but
with music, how many more chords can you come up with?
digital realm, there's possibilities that just physical instruments you could never do. I
You
mean,
can make the sound with manipulating it.
I think on one of the smoke sessions we talked about those Vocaloids from Japan. They were CGI created pop stars that they didn't even have a human doing the voice. Even the voice was computer generated. So every word it spoke, every note it sung, and these things were singers, they were pop stars. They were completely computer generated. That's a whole nother form of art. Yeah, but if you're not in that context, if you're not in that world, it might not make sense to you. But that is a complete, you can't deny the creativity that goes into something like that.
No, I'm just listening to what he's saying.
So-
I mean, because my thought was, because like you said, it's not dying. We're saying that it's slowly dying, and you're saying that it's changed. Well, I figured, music would have to change. But when you're saying, I guess now electronically, I can manipulate sound without an instrument. So that would be the direction it's going.
I mean, we've all seen videos on YouTube, or if you're on TikTok, whatever, where people will take one sound somebody makes. Somebody takes a sample of one noise and constructs a whole beat around just one person going, ow! You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That kind of, and it seems silly. It's cute. We look at that and we laugh, or we go, oh man, that's cool, whatever. But that is showing you the creativity of what potentially could be out there. Because humanity, with the way we're going, especially with technology and the rates that technology is increasing in our society, we're going to do some interesting things. That's going to be our new format. The digital format is going to give us opportunity to really do some interesting things out there. I guess that's the best way to sum it up.
One author said that accessibility made art mainstream, and that talent died with the invention of talent shows.
Okay.
And that the non-stop production of art is fostered by its everyday consumption, which makes it no longer memorable.
Right.
Our attention span now, when it comes to art, is regulated to the click of a mouse. So this is not a creativity crisis. This is a crisis of authenticity. The reason I wanted to make that statement is because, for two reasons. One, everything is going to change. Everything is going to mutate. And everything is going to evolve. Absolutely. But I think, within reason, there are levels of art production of any medium, whether it's sculpting, music, dance. Some of it you're like, that's just garbage. And there's some that you have no idea what is going on, like the whirling dervishes. And you're like, I don't know why they're doing what they're doing, but my God, it's beautiful. There's no interpretation in required, because it's doing something to you on the inside, kind of like a good sermon or a spiritual awakening, if you will, which is what makes art so precious to us. So the problem that we're having now in art is you have art and you have the art world.
Okay.
art is the expression of the human being. The art world says, here are the rules you have to play by. And this part right here is malleable. Because to your point, this area over here in the 60s is shag carpet. In the 70s, it's something else, I'm sure. In the 80s and 90s, it's hardwood floors. That's modern art. You with me? So art is going, just for the example of architecture, art is going to always change. It's wood tile. Okay, so wood tile, right? So then you go look back in some of those art books from the 50s and the 40s, like, damn, that's old. Right. You know, man, that's outdated.
The color schemes
that shit always goes back.
Oh, it does. It does. It does for people. In different forms, though. Kind of like our children. Kind of like our children. Right. You know, go down far enough, you'll find somebody that looks identical to you. Or back and far enough, rather. But the point I'm making is, Jonathan, the problem is, or rather the question is art influencing the world, or is the art world influencing the world? And those are two totally different questions.
If there's rules to the art world, then yeah, they're trying to influence. There should be no rules. Should do whatever the fuck. Like you said, how they doing that stupid shit. People like that stupid shit, and it brings that emotion out of
the art. The art world is about money, honestly. It's just it's like any other industry. And I would consider that an industry. Mm-hmm. And it's about making money. Okay. And I'm never gonna knock the hustle. If you can find a way to make money off of art, good for you.
Yeah. What you think we doing right here?
Hey, like I said, good for you.
Well, smoke sessions.
So if you can make that happen, great. I'm not gonna begrudge you that. But at the same time, the art world doesn't cancel out the independent artists. You have some people out there who just create to create, and now with the world of social media, those people don't have as many gatekeepers to getting their art out there. Now, true, even some of those are going to get absorbed by the art world. But you'll have enough that stick around. You'll have enough who are true artists and will stick to their vision on what they think their art should be. Who I think it'll never die out. Again, it will go through some changes. And we'll see financial influences, I guess you could say, in the art world for a long time. And then we'll probably go through a phase where it doesn't buy into it as much. It's just an evolution of our society and how we view certain things. There's so much going on right now that it's the first time humanity has ever had to deal with a lot of this stuff. And honestly, we ain't got this shit figured out.
That's why we're desensitized to it. There's too much.
Well,
so much coming at you. Like shit, there's so much shit you can look at. It's all right. It makes no sense. Like that, like a painting, like the Mona Lisa. Oh shit, ain't nobody seen no shit like that before.
Let's look at let's understand the art world. Like, I don't think anyone in their right mind would say that, unless you're from a totally separate, different, detached culture, would say that the Ode to Joy by Beethoven is a horrible piece of music, classical music. Now, you have to understand, you have to come indoctrinated with certain Western traditions and cultures. But when you first hear Ode to Joy, it doesn't sound like noise. There's a pattern to it that moves you. It's for the same reason why when you listen to Chinese music or Asian music, it's kind of like takes some getting used to because the notes are being placed in a different order. But if you listen to it long enough and you understand how that works, it makes sense. Okay. The problem with the art world is not so much that, it's a matter of money or what have you, because Vincent van Gogh and Claude Monet both died broke. Mm-hmm. But they created and sold pieces of art later on in life, 200 years, 100 years after they died, worth millions. But during that time, the reason they died broke was because the art world didn't accept it. It was something new. Right? It was something different. Well, okay, it's different, it's new. what's so bad about it? Because it doesn't conform to our current paradigms of the human expression of the human spirit. That's the problem. And when you have those types of institutions in place that say, hey, okay, here are the basics of art. Here are the color schemes of art. Here's how geometry works. No problem. But when there's an outlier from that, then you're shunned and you're exiled, if you will, from the art community. But that's not just art, it's academia, it's anything like that. But we're talking exactly until it becomes popular, you're dead and all of your critics are gone, and now you're remembered forever, right? Okay. The reason that is sacrilegious in art is because art is supposed to be an expression of the spirit. And just because the people that are the gatekeepers to that format or that platform don't agree with it, I think that is a huge disservice to the human experience. Because we're going to accept and reject whatever it is we would like or not like or whatever on our own. But the art world is what dictates, hey, you walking down the runway dressed like that, unacceptable. And now you have that on your resume. You understand what I'm saying? That note doesn't go good with that music. You're out of here. It doesn't conform to the iambic pentameter within music. Okay. Only just to come back 100 years, 200 years later and be like, man, Alexander McQueen was off the chain. Right? you understand what I'm saying? Like, but that's what the art world has done and continues to do. But I understand we do need a basic reference point to start from. You just can't just go out there and never play the guitar and think you're going to play in front of Madison Square Garden. You understand? So it's a not that anyone is right or wrong. It's a hell of an argument they're having within the art world right now.
Right. Oh yeah. If anybody's out there has any thoughts on what we're talking about, please call in.
We got 5 minutes.
Yeah, we got 10 people watching, man. Thank y'all so much for sticking with us.
Everybody, I hope you're interested. What are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely.
Any artists out there? Any entertainers? Anybody? What do you think? Let us know what you think about this discussion, or you just like listening to us, or listening to me act a fool and them talk about that shit. I'm enjoying this. Someone that wrote a quote. Her name is Billy Collins. I thought it was very beautiful. We had Tiffany Scales on the show, and she's a poet, and her talent stands on its own, right? And I thought this quote here was very, very, very applicable to just art in and of itself, not just poetry, but art, but they reference poetry. And the quote goes, "I want them to water ski across the surface of a pond, waving at the author's name on the shore. But all they want to do is tie the poem to a chair with a rope and torture a confession out of it. They begin beating it with a hose to find out what it really means." That's deep.
Oh wow.
That's deep.
Damn.
That's deep.
Okay.
That's basically that was the whole position that I was coming from. That point.
I got you.
You follow me? Like, the artist doesn't matter. The message doesn't matter. How did it make you feel?
Right.
How did it make you feel?
And that's why I don't think the art industry could ever really kill art, because even if Van Gogh sells for $1 million, there's prints and we all get to see it, and it all makes us feel something, when we look at it, and so does the art diminish because of the way you see it?
Right.
And in some instances, an argument could be made for possibly. I know for me, for example, I can't read digital, on a screen. I have to read paper books.
I feel that. I'm with you. I'm the same way.
Okay.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
What about a picture of a damn can of soup?
I don't understand Andy Warhol.
And speaking of him, his Marilyn Monroe Blue just sold for like $200 million. a picture of Marilyn Monroe, and it's the one that has the different colors,
See,
the blue one.
okay.
So for $200 million about a month ago.
I like the
That's crazy.
style of Andy Warhol
Okay.
stuff.
Okay.
Like aesthetically, it's
Okay.
pleasing. Like
Okay.
you look at it and the way it's done, it looks nice.
Mhm.
I know people draw a lot of depth from what he does. I don't get that with his work.
Right.
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
I feel that.
To me, it looks cool and it represents kind of like a
It's tight.
right, like a made man kind of, you know,
Right.
hanging out and got a cigarette in one hand and a gin and tonic in the
Right.
other. That kind
Right.
of stuff. You
Right.
know?
Right.
If you
Right.
want, you can go to Pittsburgh, and the Andy Warhol Museum is right there. You know, I'm from there, so the people.
They
in
don't
Pittsburgh-
charge to get in.
No, they do. I think they do. I'm not sure if they do or not, but you can go and check that shit out. But people love that shit, you know. There was
I
a
mean-
story about that box he did. The box of something. There's a big old story I saw somewhere about how he made it. And the lady who has it's not sure if it really is the original, but then she has paperwork that says her dad used to own the original, so maybe that is it. Forget what the story was, but it was about a box. Forget what it's called. It's a famous box that Andy Warhol did. It looks like somebody's advertisement, like the can of soup.
Church chicken box.
No, it wasn't. It was Joyce's chicken. It was Joyce's chicken. It was a Joyce's chicken box. Oh no, Joyce's chicken, you get brown paper bag full of grease, so that's not a box.
Right. Right.
You know,
Man, you know a work of art that I really just love, man. I love flamenco dances.
yeah.
I think flamenco dancers, those ladies in those tight black pants and the shirt and the red robes and the way that they move to the
The
music,
control
The
and the
control.
power of it all.
I find that sexy and aesthetically appealing all at once.
It's like them horses that
Like the horses
they
trot.
got to have
That's
sex with it.
That's pretty.
I'm
It's
like that.
pretty.
I'm actually like that. And I get what you're saying about the flamenco dance. I'm like that about ballroom dance. Like the ladies.
Are you really?
Oh man, I love to watch.
My mom is in the ballroom.
Dude,
dancing.
it's so pretty to just watch, and the things that you can see that the human body is capable of doing.
Yes.
Like, the power, like we're saying, the power, the
Yes.
control,
Yes.
what you have to be able to do to pull off
Yes.
some of these maneuvers.
Yes.
And then you keep in time with the music. You're doing all of that. I mean, it's beautiful.
I like to watch it when they make it clap.
All right. Here we
Teeth
go.
over here.
Here we go.
Hey, dude, that's
we
art.
go.
That's beautiful too.
That's
That's art.
Yes, yeah. Here we go.
But that,
Everybody, thank y'all so much. Oh,
hey man, you
Lord.
can't deny there's an art to it.
That's art too.
It really is.
There is
It
a
really
art.
is.
Women are art.
There've been some women so beautiful
like
that
art
I
piece.
just sexually I wouldn't attract it, but I just want to just look at them. Like,
Yes.
you are absolutely perfect.
Right.
Like, oh my God, don't think I'm a pervert. I just think you're
No,
perfect.
it's just
You know what I mean?
You know who
Look
was
at
always
that.
one of those people for me?
Who?
Iman.
Yes.
She was always one of those people for me.
Absolutely.
She's gorgeous.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't even attempt to try and date her, but my God.
Yeah, that's it.
Not like I have a shot anyway, but you know,
never know.
she's just one of those people who I would just enjoy being in her presence to just look at how beautiful she is.
Absolutely. Brothers, we got to wrap it up, man. Before we do y'all have any last parting words y'all want to give our audience and everything before we leave?
Thank you for watching. Shit, thank you for being here. Hey, thank you, Kevin. Good to see you back too, brother. And everybody else who's here with us, Danessa and whoever else, Murder One.
Murder One.
If you didn't comment, if you
Hi,
didn't put anything
Keith.
up in the
Thank you,
chat,
Hi,
we can't
Keith.
call you by name, but we appreciate you being there.
Yes,
Yeah.
Marcus Martin, High Key, all of you. Thank you so
Yeah, we
much.
really appreciate it. And
Oh, go ahead. I'm
one
sorry.
quick thing. And if y'all out there and you have kids, encourage every little creative urge they have.
Please.
Oh, if they say I want to learn a guitar, get them a cheap guitar. Let them start off on something. They say they want to, paint. Go buy them some cheap paints. They don't care. They're kids. But if you have kids, encourage their creativity. You will be surprised at how much it pays off for them later on in life. So please be sure and do that.
We'll do that in 2024 because right now shit is too expensive to buy anything. Food is all we can buy.
Man, that's a whole nother show.
And that's
right there.
getting scarce.
And speaking of which, we have a individual that's associated with our podcast, Miss Danessa Bowling, on on June 21st from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's called The Longest Day, and it's they're having a fundraiser to raise $1,600 for Alzheimer's, and I believe she has a personal connection, as well as other members of this staff have a personal connection with that illness, and I think it's for a good cause. And if you can, please go out there and support her on June 21st. It's at 2915 South Sam Houston Parkway, East, Suite 400, 77047. Or if you can't show up and you just want to give along the website, it's act.alz.org. Again, that's act.alz.org. And also on July 8th, she has an event coming up called Kuji Chagulia. I wrote it down. And so it's a Self-Determination Part 3, The Happiest Hour. I'm trying. Ain't always definite. So it's it's on July 8th, and it's from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and the entrance fee is $30. You can get your tickets in advance on Eventbrite. I highly recommend doing that because she sold out quick last time, and we got a lot from that show. We're gonna be there. Please come and join us. We'd love to see you there.
Yes, for sure. It's gonna be interesting, y'all.
And last but not least, thank you, Bangin' 832 Radio.
Yes, sir.
Please go to www.bangin832.com. It's a Houston-based radio station broadcast all over the world. They showcase a lot of homegrown Houston talent, as well as our podcast every Sunday at 7 p.m. on their format. So please come, check them out, support them. They really are a good radio station. And I'm Brother Ron.
Brother Los.
Brother Jam.
Brother Bishop. We are the Daily Smoke.
Nah, nigga, Bishop died.
And we are out. Fade him out. He hot. Fade him out. Fade him out.
God, remember, we buried that nigga back in, like 3 months ago. Shit. About to say, we running our